But
Well, you start your, that's why I like the piece. You start the piece off with a bit of self-reflection, saying, "Hey, I wrote in my memoir that I am a bit of a scumbag," and you talk about the difference between someone that kind of owns it and understands what they are, what they may or may not do, and these people that are more devious. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, well, we were talking. It wasn't even an argument with an ex of mine, and she just said and it wasn't meant to be, hurtful either. She had an honest to God question. That question is, what's the difference between you and a scumbag? Because I think I told her, do you want me to bullshit you, or do you want me to tell you the truth? She goes, tell you the truth. Okay, where I was on Friday was having sex with this woman I met at a movie theater. I think that was actually the discussion. Yeah, yeah, no. And so, what's the difference between you and a scumbag? Is I own it. I just told you that. You didn't know that. I didn't even have to tell you that, but I told you that because, I'm disclosing. You asked. I would rather be in a place where I don't have to lie. The difference is with all of these cats, every single one I mentioned, like Louis C.K., they always imply. They always there's an element of trickery or trickeration that I just don't have the patience or the time for. I might, like Louis C.K., say, hey, why don't you come up to my hotel room? Like Louis C.K., I might say, actually, unlike Louis C.K., I wouldn't say, let's go up and talk about the script. I would say, let's go up to the hotel room so you can watch me masturbate. And typically, the person I said this to would laugh. And I go, actually, I'm not joking. When I tell you a joke, you'll know. And then they say, cool, I'm down with it. Or they say, I'll pass. We could talk about the script here. No professional repercussions, nothing to report. No, don't make people feel weird. I'm not angry or hostile about it. I just had to take a shot, took my shot, So
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah. So, so Louis C.K. jumps in front of the door and blocks the exit. This is scumbaggery. Look, have I been in a threesome? Yes, I write about that in the memoir. I've been in a threesome. Have I pooped on anybody's head during the course of the threesome? I have not. And more importantly, the most mind-blowing thing is the poop didn't stop me really necessarily, but that he stayed.
Yeah.
What kind of piece of shit stays in bed with pieces of shit? I don't know. And all the things you referenced, you mentioned, the age, the power. Listen, nobody who signed on for that expected to get their head pooped on. I'm sorry. And the fact that he stayed pretty much, I took a class from Harrant Kachadorian, the noted sexologist, and he at one point said, anybody, categorically, anybody who's into necrophilia who participates in sex with dead bodies is de facto insane. And even at that point, I was like, come on, how can you say that? I mean, different strokes for different folks. But I think in this instance, it's a real kind of referendum on the nature of power that the person who took the shit stayed in the shit. I found that to be ultimately the most disturbing aspect of it. And the reality of it is my head immediately went to the one place that nobody's head went to, and all his reportage, his steroid usage,
Interesting.
And I've been, a kind of casual supporter of the idea of steroids, as well as having taken them. But I do know the personality deforming effects they have, and that I'm not saying this in an exculpatory way, and pooping on somebody's head in a threesome that you continue to have sex in is not technically illegal. He's getting dinged for sex trafficking and these other things. But steroids are very powerful drugs, and I don't think. I mean, I had a friend who used steroids as a defense in a murder case, and it failed miserably, and he went to prison for 25 years, where I believe he is right now, San Quentin. But I think he's got a case, sort of. It makes you kind of crazy.
What about? I have been watching some of the wrestling stuff. I don't know how into pro wrestling you are. You actually have written about combat sports. You said you just came from jujitsu.
Yep.
My big work I've been doing for the last 2 years, it's not finished yet. That's a me problem. Is a documentary series called Kayfabe, which is about the way we digest media juxtaposed to pro wrestling and the rise of cable news. So I'm a wrestling fan. I know who Vince McMahon is. He's an interesting character to me. His demise, though, Has
it
been
might be too soon to say demise, my friend. I
well.
don't know.
I mean, just his physical,
Yeah,
like watching Vince McMahon, looking at him now, it's like,
yeah,
dude, your hair has been kind of a salt and peppery gray for 30 years, and now it's jet black.
yeah, man.
You look very different. So there's people that are saying that, when he started wrestling,
Mm.
um, coupled with the steroid use, um, that he was taking some big bumps. And there are people that do think that he has CTE
Yeah,
or
yeah,
dementia.
yeah. I think. Listen, I used to be more into pro wrestling in the old days, but the reality of it is, I think during the fight book, I interviewed somebody, and he was like, we don't have a season in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, if it was real wrestling, if it was amateur wrestling, there's a season because these were all farm kids and they couldn't be doing, any sport when it was time to do the crop stuff. So they start to wrestle. So, but pro wrestling has no season. It's all year. So if you're taking steroids, I know guys who have been on 11-month cycles.
Jesus Christ.
11 months. Your muscle receptor sites max out after about 12 weeks. You should never go on for more than 12 weeks, and yet they do.
Mm-hmm.
So add that to the amount of damage that he's taking. Yeah, it's fake, but these guys are taking real headshots and heads are bouncing off. Again, this sounds like I'm working for the defense, and I'm not.
I don't think you are. I think
No.
we're trying to make well, my first question is actually trying to make sense of it. And I do want to put some sort of pin on the steroid thing, because I may need to talk to you soon about that, because Damage Magazine, who I do some writing for, had asked me, because I was talking about young people in steroid use in a private conversation that the editor and I were having, one of the editors and I were having. And he goes, I want you to write something about young people and steroids. And I actually want to kind of do some interviews, because it's something that's kind of blowing my mind, because it's a stakeless thing. I'm not talking about young athletes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about young competitors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about young kids that just want to get, young 13, 14,
Yeah, that's
that want to get 135 up on a bench. And I'm
yeah.
like, dude, just you can get there. So
Well,
I
also
mm,
that's the last time you've got so much natural testosterone in your system. That's really the last time you should do it. I mean, you're gonna screw yourself up in a way. I don't think I did my first cycle until I was 30.
oh,
Um,
there's kids
yeah,
22 years old that
yeah,
have to get TRT replacement.
yeah. This is ridiculous, and
It's
yeah.
insane what we're
But
seeing.
but I mean, again, this is a fuel for the whole scumbaggery. His inability to age. I mean, not his,
Mm,
our inability to age gracefully. I mean, I hate he
mm,
stole it himself. I'm not going to give credit to Albert Speer, the Nazi architect, for this, but the theory he had that he used was this theory of ruin,
mm,
and that was that buildings. He wanted the buildings he built in Germany to be like the buildings that were built in Rome. And I think it was actually either an Italian or French guy who came up with this idea of the theory of ruin. And that's that the building should look as good in decline as they did when they were first made, right?
mhm,
And I think in general, that's what I aspire to. Like, yeah, there's certain ways in which I am not at all like the 25-year-old competitive bodybuilder I
mhm.
once was. But I want to be pretty much the best put together 61-year-old I can be. Yeah, and for no other reason that it's not time for me to be the fat Elvis yet.
Yeah.
So I'm still on stage. And also to do jujitsu. I'm fighting. I fought 3 guys today.
Mhm.
Yeah, and their ages didn't total mine.
Fuck.
So
Fuck.
all three guys. These are guys who are like, one guy was a Marine. you know,
Mm,
his age, and so I need to stay current for a lot of reasons. But the hair dye, somebody, I was in LA, somebody came up to me and goes, "Oh my God." I go, "What?" I go, "Who does your eyebrows?" I was like, man, I'm just I'm just a dude, man. I'm not going to having my eyebrows done.
Well, you also said LA. That's a
Yeah,
place of
yeah. If
plastic.
I dye my hair, it's because I'm doing some weird Oxbow ideation thing, or
Mhm,
like somebody's looked at some old PR photo. They go, "Oh shit, you're Mac Heath," and I go, "Yes, you're the only one who got that." I was channeling Three Penny Opera this was for Thin Black Duke,
mhm,
So, but yeah, this obsession. I mean, you know, Vince McMahon's like 77 years old. You know, if you can rock threesomes at the age of 70, good for you. But all the rest of it bespeaks of a certain desperation with finitude. You know, you're gonna die someday. You figure that shit out, own up to it. You know, and Trump himself has sort of codified this, you know, so whatism that I think is now created a situation where, yes, statute of limitations are being extended, but we're hearing a lot more about this stuff. Danny Masterson has gone to prison now for 25 years, you know. I mean, you know, Weinstein got him, gone.
NXIVM, the whole NXIVM thing that happened.
Yeah,
that was a weird thing. But you bring up Donald Trump, and this is the first question I want to ask. And I think many of us of a certain age felt that in 2015, when the audio got released of the grab him by the pussy recording, that he was done. We've seen better people taken down by much less. You know, Gary Hart. You remember Gary Hart?
Yeah, but they left. Nixon left.
Yeah.
Gary Hart left.
Clinton was on his last term.
Somebody say, so what? And stay.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, Clinton is on his last term, 99. The impeachment starts or happens, I believe. Are we a bit more acceptable of people in power doing horrible things?
Well, we've had, how many presidents have we had in our recent memory that have been drug users? We got Clinton, we got George W, we got Obama. So okay, so that horse is gone. How many have been married and divorced? You know, I mean,
Reagan. I think
yeah. So what we expect from these public figures is changed quite a lot, you know, and Trump has changed a lot of that. So
how does that change though take place so quickly? Because I remember the fervor over Clinton, and I think on one hand there were people that were kind of pro Clinton, if you will. In the same way you get people that are like pro Bill Cosby, because it's like, well, they knew what they were doing. You know what I mean? It's that thing.
Yeah, it depends. With Clinton, there's so many facets of this guy's personality that, you know, I've met him and we had dinner together during the Democratic National Convention when Gore was about to get reamed. So it was that 99 or 2000, I don't remember. And I've written about this before, you know, on the Substack. I was there with Michael Brown, Ron Brown, the Secretary of Commerce's son, and you know, he took a step further when somebody called me, and I turned around because he wanted to introduce me to Bill at first because we're about to sit down for dinner, and I talked to the person who called me, and then I talked back to clearly I was walking up with Michael Brown, but he was like 4 feet ahead of me now, and the Secret Service guys, and I go, no, I'm with Michael, and Michael goes, he's with me, and then they go, oh, okay, and they let me in. So I meet Bill, I'm talking, and I'm, you know, excited about dinner, but I said I'm not going to make it professional because I was supposed to interview him the next day during a golf match, and so I'm there. We say our hellos. I go to sit down at the table, and then I see these two women with short leather skirts and plunging halter tops, and I was like, oh, yo. Okay, all right. This is after Lewinsky thing. This dude is gonna be gun shy, right? And they're kind of his back is to them. He's talking to somebody else, and they're kind of patiently waiting. And I'm looking for the Secret Service guys who suddenly become like Van Halen roadies. They're gone. They're like gone. Like these chicks are just standing there waiting for Clinton, right? Like they know, fuck off. So they fuck off. And the guy he's talking to says something like, I think somebody's waiting to talk to you. And then he turns around, and I'm sitting there. I'm not eating. I'm not drinking. I'm not moving. I'm watching this thing. He turns around, knowing I'm there, knowing the journalists are there, turns around and goes, hi. And he gives him a big hug. And I'm like, this is rock and roll, baby, right here. Already been busted for stuff. Doesn't give a crap. These girls, were they twins, sisters? Were they hookers? Who knew? Didn't care. He was gonna hug down on them, and all got hugging and kissing and hugging and kissing. I was like, yo, we're on a different planet here, man. 50 times the pedophile island.